So welcome to both my live and virtual learners. My name is Jill Goddard and I will be the instructor for this class. Today's date is January 20th, 2018. Live classes will begin 2 p.m. Each week. My email address is goddard.12@wright.edu. As always, please feel free to contact me for any reason. A few reminders before class, please be sure to run the audio setup wizard prior to each class to be sure your headset is working properly. Also be sure to click on your electronic hand to put it down. It'll raise automatically each time you enter the classroom. Furthermore, we want to make sure that we remove all distractions so we can concentrate for the entire duration of the class. So removing distractions would be turning off your cell phone and placing a do not disturb sign on your door so that we can enjoy class together engaged and uninterrupted. So let's quickly go down through and do our quality check. So let's just do these all at once. Give me a green check mark if you can see the red record light, the upper right-hand corner, if you can see quality check written at the top of this slide, and if you can hear me sufficiently. All right, so everybody's got green checks. Looks like we're good to go. Okay, so the big idea of today's session is how do we make online classes more interactive and engaging? And more specifically, as high school teachers, how can we make these classes more interactive and engaging for our students so they can learn effectively and efficiently? I know we have some students in here today that are non-high school teachers as well, but overall as teachers, instructors, and professors, we all want our classes to be conducive and effective for efficient learning. So student engagement is an all-around issue for students of all ages, whether it be online or face-to-face. Research indicates that student engagement declines as students progress through elementary to middle school and then while reaching its lowest levels in high school. Some studies estimate that by high school 40 to 60% of youth are disengaged, which this can be really alarming, and the other alarming fact is the majority of teachers don't recognize this disengagement, so no adjustments are made. It is found that engaged students earn higher grades, report a greater sense of belonging, value education outcomes, etc. So as educators, we want to make sure we increase our engagement, which may seem difficult in an online environment, but it's definitely possible. So for our icebreaker, I'd like you to stop and think to yourself, have you ever felt disengaged as a learner? This could be in a face-to-face class or an online class. So think about your experiences and then also what it caused the disengagement. Was the material boring, the professor monotone, was it repetitive, no interaction? So let's go ahead and share our thoughts if you guys want to take turns hopping on the mic to share your experiences. And for my virtual listeners out there, if you could answer these questions in your missed class summary and post those, that would be great. All right, Caroline, go ahead.
I felt disengaged when other students would go off on a tangent that had nothing to do with the class, and the teacher wouldn't pull them back in.
Yeah, that can definitely cause disengagement and be distracting.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have any experiences with that?
Yeah, similarly, when I was in these 200-person classes as an undergraduate, you'd have people go off on tangents, or that monotone professor at the front of the room, way, way far away, just droning on and on and on, and never stopping to ask for questions, never doing anything else, just droning on and on.
Yeah, you can definitely lose attention by a monotone professor if you're not careful about getting your class, your learners involved. And so it's important as professors and teachers that we're aware of what causes this disengagement so we can avoid doing these things in our classes. So in this session, we'll explore a theory called the community of inquiry, which addresses student engagement. So the learning objectives for this lesson are to By the end of this workshop, students will be able to explain the purpose of the COI framework, describe each presence within the COI framework, and outline ways in which the COI framework can be applied to your classroom. So first I want to give a little background on e-learning. The development of e-learning has transformed distant education by providing opportunities for meaningful learning through interaction. Distant learning used to be considered an ineffective method of learning because the learning was passive with little to no interaction. However, now e-learning is improving that it can foster deep and meaningful learning through this interaction, which can now include interaction across the country and the world, so we can share our experiences and learn from one another. E-learning is now less about textbooks and lectures and more about the interaction and discussion amongst the students. So the community of inquiry is a dynamic framework for teaching and learning which focuses on the importance of the environment of the educational experience. It was developed by Randy Garrison. COI is a framework that emphasizes interaction and collaboration. It's not just teacher and student interaction, but it's also the interaction between students and the interaction between students and the content, and then of course the interaction between the content and the teacher. So it goes in multiple directions. So here's a diagram that visually demonstrates the interrelated nature of the three aspects of the community of inquiry. The three presences are the social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence. And we put all three of these together, we get our educational experience. So let's talk about each one individually. So first we have our social presence. Unfortunately, social presence in an online classroom is often neglected. Social presence is developing a sense of community in the learning experience. Learners should project individualities and identify with a group of students as well as with the teacher. Social presence is students need to identify with real people. Collaboration is a huge part of building the social presence in a classroom. Social presence can be developed in an online classroom by including personal profiles so they can learn about one another, also including discussions where students can express their personal feelings and experiences will improve your social presence. All right, so let me change our polling real quickly. And now if we can answer the question here, so which is a big part of developing a social presence? Is it A, encouraging student learning, B, the design of the course, C, collaboration, or D, understanding? If you can go ahead and use the polling, if you do, okay, there we go. So I will now publish our results. So as you can see, everybody here answered C, which is collaboration. So collaboration is a huge part of developing our social presence in our classroom. Good job, guys. All right, next is cognitive presence. So this is where learners participate in the process of inquiry, reflection, critical thinking, and discussion to engage in learning. So our goal for students is to be able to transfer learning into our real-life situations. So basically, cognitive presence is the process of student learning. So in order to achieve a cognitive presence in your course, use the model of inquiry or practical inquiry. This process will stimulate the intellectual process. The first phase is the triggering phase, which is the proposed task or the big idea. So then the second phase, the first phase, still in triggering, it's what grabs the student's attention so they are interested in the topic. The second phase is the exploration phase. So this is what actually gets the students involved in the learning. Next phase is the integration phase. This is where the application and active learning takes place. So this is when they apply it. And then finally we have the resolution phase, which is the conclusion or the summary of the content. All right, so please use the text chat tool now to answer the question, what's the importance of the triggering phase? So if you could go down into the chat box and type in what you think the importance of the triggering phase is. Yeah, so Caroline says to introduce a problem, so that to provide an introduction of what the students are going to be learning about. And then the triggering phase can help hook the student and engage them. So yeah, it's kind of how do we hook them and hold them so they pay attention and enjoy the content. Great. All right, so finally we have the teaching presence. This is the idea that the teacher designs and delivers the content and facilitates the classroom activities. Teaching presence sets clear expectations and guides and supports our students. However, it's not just the teacher that should exhibit the teaching presence, but the students should as well. So really, by having the students exhibit this teaching presence is a very effective way for them to retain the learning. Teaching presence can be demonstrated in an online classroom in various ways, but by creating a personal profile so students can get to know you as a person can be helpful. Making yourself available to the student by providing methods of communication, so your email, your phone number, office hours if you have them. It's also important to set clear expectations so the students know the requirements of your classroom. So those can all help develop a teaching presence. All right, so now that we've discussed all three of the presences in the COI framework, we're going to try to distinguish between the three. So if you guys could pick one, so the first picture is the social presence, second picture is the cognitive presence, and the third picture is the teaching presence. If you could select one of these, the words here at the bottom, and move them underneath the pictures. Awesome. So we have the first one, social presence, developing a sense of community. Second one is the cognitive presence, the process of student learning. And the third one is the teaching presence, design and delivery of content. So it sounds like, or it looks like we've got these down, which is awesome. All right, so now we're going to think about how we can apply or the application in making connections to our field. So how can we apply the framework to your high school online classes or whatever course you may teach to make it a learning or an effective learning experience? For example, in my classes, I try to go out of my way to communicate with the students, make myself available, set clear expectations, use activities that can promote collaboration. So these are just a few examples. Hopefully it can get you started thinking about how you can apply it to your online classroom to produce effective learning environment. Does anybody have maybe one idea how they can apply this into their classroom? Looks like Chris is typing. Team names, mascots, as students all love this, create groups. Yeah, those are all good ways to kind of establish that social and community environment in the classroom. Awesome. All right, so our summary, Caroline said, provide a chance for the group to brainstorm about a possible solution. Again, great, that's the collaboration, that's developing a social collaborative environment. Awesome. Okay, so for the summary. In summary, e-learning can be effective and can provide students with diverse and engaging learning experiences. The Community of Inquiry Framework provides us with a guide for creating these courses. So with COI and the three presences, social, cognitive, and teaching, we can develop our collaborative environment for an online class which engages in effective learning. So for a self-assessment, I would like you guys to use the emoticon to give me a self-assessment of overall, how do you feel about today's content? If there's still some confusion, I would like to provide clarification. So give me a smiley face if we're good, or maybe a confusion face if we have questions. So it looks like we got both smiley faces. Awesome. So that's really all I have today for today's class. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to hop on the mic. Otherwise, you can email me at goddard.12@wright.edu if you have any questions, concerns, comments about anything. Virtual listeners, please be sure to post your missed class summary and pilot. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.